how you are able to onboard your customers, so what strategies have you tried to use?
Like being an expert of the field before the desalination, I knew that there is this technology can solve the problems that other desalination technologies cannot solve. Because these current technologies are very expensive and they need electrical generators or electricity to be available, and most of the brackish waters are available in other regions. So I started looking into those who make desalination plants for this brackish water.
Hi, Lifers. Today we have an interesting guest from Jordan, but he is now relocated to Saudi Arabia. So we have Rasool on the podcast. Rasool is a LIF7 Lifer and he's a water startup. So Rasool, welcome to the LIF-e podcast.
Thank you, Suraj, and thank you for hosting me with your podcast about my innovation and for all the Lifers there.
So Rasool, for all of us to understand, I spoke in a word it's like water startup. But can you just talk about your startup, what it does, and a little bit about in a sentence for all of us to get a perspective?
Yeah, we just have invented new membranes for a new water technology that could be used for wastewater treatment and water desalination. We believe this technology is more energy efficient and more economically feasible than the current employed technologies.
So it's a water membrane or a filtering kind of a system to optimize the quality of water, right? In context of bettering the quality of the water.
Yes, we treat the water, we desalinize the water, and we require lower energy to do that, with lower cost overall for installing the new desalination or wastewater treatment units.
So we'll go deeper into the product, but before that, let me congratulate you for relocating from Jordan to Saudi Arabia, one of those countries which are just opening up. So how has been that journey, and congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. Actually, I would just need to say that currently Saudi Arabia is booming in terms of investing as a government, as private individuals, as venture capitals into new technological advancement. It's something that comes aligned with the country policy. So we got the chance to raise some funding from private investor first of all. And then we've got two governmental agencies investing in our technology because what we're doing is a deep technology thing. It's not a high tech or low tech. It's more of a deep technology thing. So they have this initiative for deep technology in Saudi Arabia, which we applied to, and we got the funding for that. So we relocated to Saudi Arabia, and that's what I want to say to every and each one. You need always to explore your options and not be always surrounded by your own comfort zone or your own country. You need to look for the countries that need your technology. And the first thing that jumps to my mind was Saudi Arabia, because actually 50% of the desalination market in the world is in Saudi Arabia. So it's the market of our technology, and it's not only the investment. Again, it's the market of our technology. That's why I think the decision of moving there was good for me personally and for the company future.
So not just your customer market, but also a market for money or what is outpouring. So it's one of the very interesting times for maybe a lot of innovators to seek investment in Saudi Arabia or relocate to Saudi Arabia as it opens up, I think.
Yeah, actually, they have a lot of calls. They have annually some calls for deep technology. There is a specific call. High tech, there is a specific call. I can share that with my fellow Lifers, so they can apply it, and they are open to anyone from anywhere in the world. So the technology it goes through processing of evaluation, and then if the technology is great, then they can invest money and sign a contract with investment. I think it's one of the promising lands now, and still an opportunity with the new Vision 2030, because the whole idea they want to move into exporting technology, not importing. That's the whole idea of Saudi Arabia, and they want to be independent of oil, because they think
oil is harmful for the environment, so they want to invest in new and novel technologies that can really replace their dependence on oil.
I think that's a lot of interesting insights, and I think you being there now for any LIFer to touch base and get a more perspective, you could be a super amazing person as a point to get in touch and get an understanding of the Saudi Arabian investing and going there as a market. Now, one thing I want to talk about is just going back a little bit about your startup. So you said that your startup is called Upshare. So, that's what we spoke before. So can we talk about Upshare a little bit more in context to what inspired you to look at this challenge? So how have you been able to work on the solution? So what inspired you to solve this problem?
Well, what I can simply say, what really inspired me is a simple fact. Jordan, my country, is ranked second among the poorest country in water supplies. Actually, we have the water supplies cut off even in your house, like for 3 or 4 days. Sometimes in the summertime it's a week or 2 weeks. So people will go and buy water from the market, which is very, very expensive to guarantee their water supply. So, like growing up around this thing and being aware of the water problem, so I decided all the time to do everything I can myself in water. So I did my undergraduate projects in wastewater treatment. Master and PhD was about this technology that I started to know, and I find that this technology has many advantages, but it's never
to the market. So I tried to address this through research and development, and I was able to file 5 international patents. Actually, all of them are granted now. They went beyond the examination step. And yes, that's what inspired me. And when you think about it too, like 70% of our planet is water, but this water is salty, too salty to drink. So desalination sounds like a very nice option, a very viable option. But you will be shocked to know that only 1% of fresh water is produced via desalination, which means that the desalination technologies are not to the expectations, did not achieve the expectations. So I thought about solving the desalination technological and economical problems by my invention, and I believe I have a very good opportunity to like introduce a new technology to the desalination.
Wow, so I think that's a very macro perspective and very micro in terms of you were able to look at that this technology is not mature or not been able to add value when you went ahead and you filed patents and you're moving ahead. But I also want to understand, like, in this journey of desalination that you looked at, were there any pivots, or was it you had very clear clarity on what you wanted to solve and you straight away went inside and then solved it, or you were able to or you had some pivots that you had to take to and then you came across your final product? So how was the journey from the idea or the challenge to the solution? Were there any pivots involved, or how were you able to solve it?
That's a very great question. Actually, I always think that it's not a straightforward solution. Like, life is not I want to do this and I can do that. We planning is important, but we have always to be flexible. Throughout the journey, there is always twists and turns. There is always like another let's say a gate open, or another venue to look at, or another idea that just pops in your mind. So you have always to be flexible to change your plan, or not to change it rationally or fundamentally, but at least to be flexible to achieve your goals. I think what we should always have a clear goal in our mind. You know what I mean? There should be a goal, there should be a dream, and the journey itself is enjoyable if you take it and be passionate about what you're doing. I did my master's, but then when I started doing my PhD, I started really thinking more about this technology is wonderful. It has many advantages. It has this problem. How we can solve this other problem? I was addressing the thing from research viewpoint. You know what I mean? Not from entrepreneur viewpoint, from an purely academic and research. So I thought about solutions and I presented solutions,
as soon as I presented the solution, I noticed that this thing could be of a commercial value because this technology could go to the market. So I start filing the patents, and then I start really marketing my patent to the investors, and I got lucky with that one investor believed in the technology and start investing money, and we just grow step by step. You know what I mean? That's how I see it. And you know what? There is always, I think everyone journey is a unique journey. What fits Mohammed journey not necessarily fits Suraj journey. But I think the approach should be, the attitude should be the same. Our approach should be similar. We should keep going. We should keep trying. We should be flexible, and we should really believe in ourselves.
It totally makes sense. I think what you spoke about, and also you said so you found the opportunity. You start filing patent. You start reaching out to investors, and then the journey was not straightforward, obviously. And so I'm just curious to know how you were able to onboard your customers. So what strategies have you tried to use? How was, or example, you have stories around the first customer, or example, how was the customers been able to add on to it, and if you have any interesting strategies around that?
I will just tell you, being an expert of the field before the desalination, I knew that there is this technology can solve the problems that other desalination technologies cannot solve. For example, one of our major problems in desalination is that we have a very well established technology for seawater desalination. But there is a lot of brackish water out there that have a high salinity level, not like the seawater, but the current technologies cannot do it, because these current technologies are very expensive, and they need electrical generators or electricity to be available, and most of the brackish waters are available in evergreens. So I started looking into those who make desalination plants for this brackish water, and I came across 2 or 3 companies, and then we start doing piloting scale study with these companies, and they found out that our membrane is better than the membrane they're using by 3-fold. You know what I mean? So they started depending on our product because they are into the market with a lower efficiency product, and we gave them the product. But all of that was based on deep understanding what is the market from commercial viewpoint and from technological viewpoint, because I had the technological knowledge of the water desalination, because I have the expertise of that. So I knew who are the key players, more or less, in the desalination market, and you start by having a reputation scientifically. Then you can really propose to the technical teams there and supply them with the membranes, and they test it and they get to the feedback. If the feedback is fine, it's a win-win scenario. Everybody wants to make money out of it.
Okay, so you had all the dots before, you planned all the dots before, and then when the right time came, you just connected them. Is that what you're trying to share?
To be honest with you, I'm giving you the conclusion. That's the result. But how I always thought about how we can do the market. First step to me was to file the patent, then to participate in competition for technology ventures. So you get your name into there, and then you start applying for investment, and then you start really, your market, and you go step by step. I think that's what, but it's not really a straight line or straightforward thing. There is always twists and turns, ups and downs along the way.
Right. And Rasool, so you're one of those LIFers who has been an academic journey, and from the academic journey, you have now moved on to an entrepreneurship, right? So the mindset in academy and entrepreneurship is very different. So what advice would you give to those LIFers who are still doing the R&D and having challenges to move as an entrepreneur?
Well, that's not an easy step to make, because I think most of the academics like to stay in their comfort zone, do their research, publish their papers, teach their students, which is a wonderful job to do, you know what I mean? But I always
Okay, what really changed my mindset was one publication. This publication, I was telling my professor about it, and he told me, yeah, that is nice work to be published, but then so what? I asked him, what do you mean by so what? He said, if we keep just only publishing papers, we're not making any impact to the society. We need always to translate our research into an impactful product that could improve our living standards. That's the whole idea of doing research. That's the mindset that every researcher, every academic should have in mind. Like to have his research having an impact, to do something that really can be a game changer in terms of energy, in terms of water, in terms of environment, in terms of biomedical stuff, in terms of whatever field there is a lot of things to be done, and I think it's a mindset that really hit me hard back then. But then to change, it's nice to have the mindset, I think, but then the process of changing is not an easy thing, you know what I mean? Because it's different kind of life, different kind of stress. But again, it's a challenge, and like we're living only just for a few years in this life. So if we can't really make things better around us, at least to try our best to make it better around us. And that's the mindset I have, and I got lucky that there are some investors who believed in the technology. I think, again, for any academic, it's not a straightforward thing to be an entrepreneur, but I've learned a lot. And the first mindset that we need to know, even if you have a PhD, that does not mean you know everything. I know in chemical engineering, but I don't know in business development. I don't know in marketing. I don't know in presenting my ideas, pitching, communications, negotiation skills. All of these things I need to learn. And actually, I was very thankful to Leaders in Innovation Fellows program. Because it gave me that opportunity to learn these things that I lacked. Yes.
Perfect, awesome. And it's great to see that you have evolved in that mindset, because it's hard, the transition. It's like very hard, it's painful. It's a lot of for different reasons. Now coming to the second last part of the podcast, where we're talking about the LIF alumni. So the LIF alumni is it's more than 1,000 LIFers across 19 countries, spread across in multiple regions, in multiple fields, in multiple segments. So what is your expectation from the LIF network? Are you looking at co-selling solutions, or co-licensing, or co-partnering, or co-building some solutions?
Yeah. The first thing I've learned through my investor, the business people, is just we keep always the doors open for any opportunity. Okay. I think there are many LIFers who are working in the water sector, and there are many LIFers who are working in renewable energy, and there are many LIFers who are working in environmental. And my technology and the technology that we're doing, our company is involved in all of that. You know what I mean? There is a huge potential for the technology worldwide, and we need always to have local partners to do the job. For example, so co-partnering with LIFers is always an option. Again, licensing the technology, I might even acquire other technologies from other LIFers to be implemented in my technology to make it better solution for other applications. Not necessarily only wastewater or desalination. We could even go to beyond that. So and that's the good thing about the alumni of the LIF. That we always gather every year, since I went through the journey, we have gathered 2 or 3 times in Jordan, and we have a lot of events. This podcast, you're from India, I'm from Jordan. There are many people around the world who can listen or hear us. So that's always a good thing to keep in touch, because I think success could be shared among others. Because if you have something I need, I have something we need, we can really collaborate and maybe making a new product, developing new product, exchanging the experiences itself. even the failure experience is important. Even if I fail, for example, we always learn from our failures. Like it's not the success story that teaches us. I think failing the story or failure story teaches us more than the success story. Yes.
That's amazing. And we have like one obvious question that we asked in the podcast. And so, if you had one superpower, what would that superpower be and why?
If I have one superpower, make everyone listen to me so people don't fight anymore.
Okay. That's a cool one. And another thing is so just coming back to Saudi Arabia, I was just curious to know that if there is a lifter who is looking at fundraising, for example, and is looking at opportunities with Saudi Arabia, so what are the three things that you should say that this lifter should do in order to get connects in Saudi Arabia, or how should you look at if he's a first-time lifter, trying to explore Saudi Arabian market for funding, or raising funds or raising investments. So what are the ways you should do, or what are your guidelines for him?
Well, I'll just be frankly honest with you about this. It's all about connection everywhere in the world. So you need to know somebody who tells you what are the calls, because there is like frequently in Saudi Arabia. I think you could follow because PIF program, the PIF, the Public Investment Fund, has many hundreds maybe of initiatives. So you need to follow on Twitter the initiatives, and then you need always to be alerted. If you know anybody in Saudi Arabia, you just can ask him, tell him that's the technology, there is any initiative out there, and you start applying for initiatives. I think you have always to be persistent and determined, not to hesitate or be shy of asking a question, even for somebody you don't know. You know what I mean? Like people will answer, and usually people in the field of entrepreneurship and innovation are trying to help the young generation and the new technological advancements. So I think just ask the question, follow the news, the high tech and the deep tech news. There is a lot of magazines out there, and there is a lot of, and now the world is a small village, so you can really know what's going on in Saudi Arabia like with a click of a mouse.
That's incredible. And actually one of the last questions that we have is, so as an alumni, you're trying to do a lot of activities. So what are your recommendations, or what are your thoughts around what kind of activities the alumni could do to engage more lifers?
Yeah, that's a very good question actually. And we need, because as I told you, I'm more engaged with the Jordanian lifers, but the more international lifers, that's what we need to find something to get engaged to. This podcast is one of the greatest ideas for having, we could really do this podcast more often. Maybe we can share through your podcast what could our interest, for example, be, like hobbies, for example, and we can share these hobbies online, for example. I think this podcast is one of the major things that keep us together. I think that's a great idea. Yes.
Perfect, Rasool. So I think we've covered a lot of aspects in context of your journey, how you started as a professor, and from there you had this insight or understanding that you need to create value, and you can only create value by converting the R&D or the patents into a business, and that's what you've done. And in that journey, you've been trying to create dots, and you've been talking to a lot of people, and that we can see that you moved from Jordan to Saudi Arabia. And after moving to Saudi Arabia, you've been able to get investments, and now you're trying to scale up. And you're open to collaborations with lifers who are either in the water segment, or example, who could use your solution in their places, or example, you could use their solutions to you. And it's been incredible to have you on the podcast, and thank you so much for your time. And we look forward to talking to you and meeting up. Some of us will meet you up in Saudi Arabia soon.
All right, thank you, Suraj. It was my pleasure to meet you and to interact with the lifers here. And thank you all. Looking forward to keep in touch with you all, guys.